Hi friends, welcome to our channel Knowledge Factory UPSC. Today in this lecture we are going to discuss the third chapter of NCERT class 7 and the name of chapter is Our Changing Earth. So before going to the lecture, those who does not subscribe to my channel, please subscribe and like the video now and share it with your friends. Let's look into this chapter. The lithosphere is broken into small plates or the number of plates which are known as lithospheric plates. Okay, we have already discussed on the previous classes that what is lithosphere and what are the main components of the earth. Okay, we have already discussed earth has lithospheric part, hydrospheric part and atmospheric part. Okay, and we have also discussed that the combination of these lithosphere, atmosphere and hydrosphere together to form biosphere. Okay, the lithosphere means what is lithosphere? Lithosphere means the soil portion or the land area of the earth comprises of the lithosphere. Okay, so the lithosphere is broken into number of plates which were known as lithospheric plates, and we will be surprised to know that these plates are moving very slowly, just few millimeters each year, and this is because of the movement of the molten magma inside the earth. Okay, so here they say that the place where we are standing now is moving very slowly because of the movement of the molten magma inside the earth. The molten magma inside the earth moves in a circular manner. Okay, so what is first of all, the introduction part is discussing about the lithospheric part is generally moving but in a circular manner, but we are not experiencing it because it moves a small millimeter each year. Okay, even though it is moving in a circular manner inside the earth. Okay, the movement of the earth plates or the plates causes changes on the surface of the earth, and the earth movements are divided on the basis of the forces which cause them. The forces which act as interior in the earth is called as endogenic forces, and the forces that work on the surface of the earth is known as exogenic forces. So it is a simple concept. That means the movement of the plate can changes the surface of the earth. That means the movement of these plates results in the changes in the surface of the earth, and the earth movement can be divided. That means the movement of the earth can be divided into two types. They are endogenic movements and the exogenic movements. What is endogenic force? The changes which act inside the earth is known as endogenic force, and the changes which acts surface of the earth is known as exogenic force. Okay, so let's see what is endogenic and exogenic forces. So in this graph we can easily identify which are the earth movements and how its division is apart. Okay, so let's see. Earth movement is mainly divided into two types. They are endogenic forces and the exogenic forces. The endogenic force is again divided into two types. They are sudden forces and diastrophic forces, and the exogenic force is divided into erosional and depositional forces. So let's see which are the sudden forces. What is sudden forces? That means the changes in the earth, the changes that happens in the earth very fast, that means very suddenly, is known as sudden forces. Okay, so which are the sudden forces? Earthquake, volcano and the landsliding. Next, what is diastrophic forces? What is diastrophic forces or what is diatropism? Diatropism means the process of deformation that produces the continents and ocean basins in the earth crust. That means diastropism is a process by it's a slow process. That's what meaning of diastrophic force or diastropism. That means the building of new mountains, new continents, new oceans, all these requires millions of years times. Okay, so these comprises of diastrophic forces. Okay, is that clear? Then exogenic forces. Exogenic force means what? The changes that happen outside the earth or means the surface of the earth. Okay, it includes erosion and deposition. The examples are rivers, wind, sea waves, glacier, etc. All we know that the river, wind, sea waves, glacier are above the crust or above the earth. Okay, so it is exogenic force and endogenic force. Endogenic forces sometimes produce sudden movements and other time it produces slow movements. Sudden movements are earthquake, volcano, which causes mass destruction on the surface of earth, that we have already discussed. Then here is a picture which shows an volcano. Let's see the main parts of the volcano. There is mantle, there is crust, and we can find there is a magma chamber inside the volcano, and the magma is flowing out towards the vent pipes, and the lava is flowing out towards the vent. And on the top of that volcano we can find there is a crater, and the gases and ash with the volcano is flowing out. Okay, so it is almost structure of the volcano. And we can find that the volcano is a vent or the opening in the earth crust through which the molten material erupts suddenly. So what is volcano? Volcano is a vent. That vent means an opening in the earth crust through which the molten materials erupts suddenly. Okay, so there is a column which is on the left side. We can find that how the words origin. Okay, let's see what is this. The exogenic forces. Okay, how the word is exo, what means endo? Endo means inside, exo means outside, genic means origin. That means endogenic means inside origin, exogenic means outside origin. Okay, that's all. It's a small information to us. Similarly, when the lithospheric plates move, the surface of the earth vibrates, and this vibration can travel all around the earth. These vibrations are called as earthquake. So here we discuss what is volcano. Next we are going to discuss what is earthquake. So similarly, the lithospheric plates are also move, and this, as a part of this, the earth gets vibrated, and these vibrations can travel all around the earth, and the vibration is called as earthquake. Okay, the place in which the crust where the movement start is known as focus. Let's discuss it with the help of diagram that make you more clear. Okay, so here we can find that there is a focus. There is a point that is below the crust, that is known as focus. What is focus? Focus is the place where the earthquakes occur or the earthquakes originate. Okay, so the place in the crust where the movement start is known as focus. Okay, let's draw an imaginary perpendicular line on through the focus, and when it reaches the surface we can find that there is a point known as epicenter. So what is epicenter? Epicenter is a place on the surface above the focus. Okay, so just above the focus there is epicenter. The vibration can travel outwards from the epicenter as waves. We can find that there are circular paths. They are described as waves, and these earthquake waves travels in the earth as these waves. Okay, the greatest damage is usually closest towards the epicenter, and the strength of earthquake decreases away from the center. Okay, so as we know that the more destruction or the more damages to the earth crust occurs in the place which were near to the epicenter, and as these waves passes their intensity also lower down. Okay, so here we can find a blue box on the left side. Let's go through that. There are different type of earthquake waves. There are mainly three type of earthquake waves. They are P waves, S wave and L wave. Okay, let's see what are the features of them. The P waves are longitudinal waves, S waves are transverse wave, and L waves are surface wave. Okay, so the earthquake waves are mainly divided into three types. They are P wave, S wave and L wave. Okay, so P means longitudinal wave, S means transverse wave, L means the surface wave. Okay, that's all. Although the earth cannot be predicted or the earthquakes cannot be predicted, the impact can certainly be minimized if we are prepared beforehand. That means we know that in the earth there are several earthquake zones, such as Japan, Indonesia are severely facing. these earthquakes and tsunami periodically. So we cannot predict them, but we can reduce the impact or reduce the destruction if we are able to know the impact of, or they able to minimize this destruction by more preparedness. Okay, so here we can find there is a picture of the destruction caused by the earthquake in Gujarat. Gujarat is also an earthquake prone area. Okay, some common earthquake prediction methods adopted locally by the people including studying animals behavior, fish in the ponds get agitated, snakes come out to the surface. Okay, so locally we can find the earthquake by using animals. That means if there is a dog or cow, it get agitated or it get violented, then the fishes in the pond get agitated and they begin to run the pond very fastly. Then the snakes get irritated and it came out of the surface. Okay, so these are some of the traditional or the methods which were adopted locally by the people. Okay, is it clear? So let's say there is a blue box on the right side. Let's see that the earthquake is measured with a machine called a seismograph. So it's a very important concept. Please focus here. So the earthquake is measured with a machine called as seismograph. The magnitude of this earthquake is measured on the Richter scale. So the earthquake is measured with a machine called as seismograph, and the magnitude is measured with the help of Richter scale. An earthquake of 2.0 or the less can be felt only in little. That means the frequency of 2.0 is very small, and 5.0 can cause damages to the small things from falling. If it goes to the 6, we can find that the magnitude is considered as very strong. If it is 7, it can cause us major earthquake. So this is the instrument which is known as seismograph. We can find the picture clearly on the textbook itself. Okay, so let's see the next important topic, that is earthquake preparedness. It is very important because it comes under the UPSC syllabus. That means our disaster management. So it is very important topic to remember this. So which are the earthquake preparedness? Okay, so let's see which are they. First includes safe spot. That means under kitchen counter, table or the desk, or against or inside the corner of wall. And second is to stay away from. That means we have to stay away from the places like fireplaces and the areas around chimneys, windows, and the shatter includes mirror, picture frames, etc. Okay, and third is prepared. That means we have to spread awareness amongst our friends and family members, and we have to face or you have to be ready for facing a disaster. Okay, so safe spot means we have to keep away from some places, and we have to hide at some places, which may mainly of under a kitchen counter or the table, desk, something else, and stay away from. That means we have to stay away from the fireplaces, chimneys, mirrors, picture frames, etc. And the third one is we have to be prepared. We have to be prepared for spreading awareness to our friends and family members about this disaster. Okay, is that clear? Let's go to the next concept, that is major landforms. Okay, so let's go through it. The landscape is being continuously worn away by the two processes. They were known as weathering and the erosion. So the landscape is being continuously worn out by two processes known as weathering and erosion. So let's see what is weathering and what is erosion. Weathering is the breaking up of rocks on the earth's surface. So what is weathering? Weathering is the breaking up of rock on earth's surface. So what is erosion? Erosion is the wearing away of the landscape by the different agents like the water, wind, ice, etc. The eroded material is carried away by the transported water, wind, etc., and eventually deposited. So what is weathering? Weathering means breaking up of rock, and erosion means wearing away of this landscape or these breaked particles with the help of wind, water, and ice. Okay, this is the difference between weathering and the erosion. Okay, so here is a small box. We can find that there are some waterfalls. It is information regarding the waterfall. I will brief it. And there is Angel Falls on the peninsula in South America, Niagara on the Canada and the boundary between Canada and the USA in North America, Lake Victoria in Zambia and Zimbabwe boundary in Africa. Okay, so let's see the next topic, that is work of a river. So here we are going to discuss how the rivers help in forming new landforms. Okay, the running of river water, that means the running of water in the river erodes the landscape, and when the river tumbles at the steep or the angle, or that means these rivers are flowing towards a steep and forming a steep angle over very hard rock or down the steep valley, it forms a waterfall. That means, as the picture suggests, if a river runs through the plain surface and fall towards the greater height, to which forming a greater stream towards the rock or something else, it forms a waterfall. Okay, that's what we have discussed earlier, that there are several waterfalls like Angel, Niagara and Victoria waterfalls. And as the river enters to the plain, it gets twisted and turns by forming the large bends known as meanders. So what is meander? As the river enters the plain, it twists and turns, forming the large bends known as meander. Here we can find a meander, that the river is entering towards the plain and it is forming a twist and a turn over here, and we can find the meander on the one side of the river which have the deposition of the minerals and the sands. Okay, then due to the continuous erosion and the deposition along the sides of meander, the ends of the meander loop come closer and closer. Due to the course of the time, the meander loop cut off from the river and it forms a cut lake. It is known as oxbow lake. So here in this picture we can find an oxbow lake, which means that the meander which forms, and it as eventually, that means as during year passes, it gets separated and form a cut like river which forms an U shape or the C shape, which forms an oxbow lake. Okay, at the times the river flow its bank, and this led to the flooding of the neighboring areas. As it flooded, it deposited the layer of fine soil and another materials called as sediments along these banks. This led to the formation of the floodplain. So what is floodplain? If the river get flooded, its minerals, materials, humus, etc. goes deposited on the plain areas, which are forming the plains. The raised banks are called as levees. So what is levees? The raised banks are called as levees. As the river approaches the sea, the spread of the flowing river decreases, and the river began to break up into the number of streams called as distributary. Here we can find a clear picture of the distributary. That means the main river is divided into or gets separated into the different small pods, which is called as distributary. We can find that there is a small area between these main river distributaries, and it is known as deltas, and the main feature of the delta is they are very fertile. Okay, the river became so slow that it began to deposit its load, and each distributary forming its own mouth, and the collection of sediments form all the mouth forms a delta. Okay, so we have discussed what is a main river, distributary and a delta. Next is last, and it's a very simple topic, that means the working of sea. It is very simple topic to understand, and there are some special terms which we have to remember. Okay, so let's look into this. The erosion and deposition of the sea waves gave rise to the coastal platform. So the erosion and the deposition of the sea waves gave rise to coastal landforms. The sea waves continuously strike at the rock, and as a result the crack develop. In the left side we can find exactly the picture, and the sea waves which the sea waves, when it hits these rocks, and the small cracks develop, and these cracks is generally again developed into form sea caves, as we can find here. First of all, the crack develop, and second, as more water is entered through these cracks, it is developed into a sea cave, and when again this water is entering into towards sea cave and more decomposition occur, and as a result the area become more hollow and it is known as sea arc. Okay, so if more water is entered towards sea arc, the top portion of the sea arc, that means the top of the sea arc, go divided separately, and it again changes into stack. That means it again into a pillar like structure known as stack. Okay, so it is a simple concept, that is, first of all a sea crack develop. The sea crack is again divided into, that means sea crack again transforms into a sea cave, it transforms into a sea arc, and again it into an stack. Okay, I hope it is clear to you. And let's see the sea cliff, and we can also find that there are some portions of the sea that is staging towards the sea. That means they are staging towards the sea and forming a hollow, and it is known as sea cliff. Okay, so there are some important concepts, that is crack, sea cave, sea arc, stack, and sea cliff. So let's see which are the working of ice. We have already discussed that the work of sea. Let's see what are the work of ice. That means the glaciers are the rivers of ice which too erode by the landscape by bulldozing the soil and stones into expose the solid rock below. That means the glaciers are the rivers of ice. That means the glaciers also erode the landscape by bulldozing the soil. That means it bulldoze a large amount of soil and stone to form the glacier car out of the deep hollows there. Okay, as the ice melt, they became filled up with the water and become beautiful lake. That means this hollow portion is filled with the water when the ice melt. Okay, the material carried by the glacier, such as rocks, big and small, sand, silt, get deposited, and these deposit form glacier moraines. Okay, so these are some important concepts regarding the working of ice. And let's see the work of wind. Okay, an active agent of the erosion and the deposition in the desert is wind. And the desert, you can see that the rocks in the shape of mushroom, we can find that the rock in the shape of mushroom, which we will commonly called as mushroom rock. Okay, so the wind eroded how this mushroom rock generated the wind erode the lower section of the rock more and upper part. Therefore such rocks having the narrow base and the wide top, when the wind blows, it shifted and transported the sand from one place to another. Okay, so when there is a rock in the desert, as a result of the wind which carries sand, it got eroded in the both sides and form a mushroom like structure known as mushroom rocks. Okay, so when it stops blowing, the sand falls. That means the wind carries a large portion of the sand from one place to another. When it stops blowing, it falls and deposited in the lower hill like structure, and it is known as sand dunes. That means as a result of this strong wind, the sand dunes occurs. When the grains of the sand are fine and light, that means these grains are fine and light, the wind can carry more sand in the long distance. Okay, so if the grains of the sand are fine and light, the wind can carry more sand over a long distance. When such sand is deposited in large area, it is known as losses. Okay, so if the small and tiny particle of the sand get deposited on the large area, it is called as losses. The large deposit of the losses is found in China. Okay, so this is the work of wind. We have already discussed in this chapter that how the lithospheric plates are divided, and how the waterfalls occurs, and what is volcanism, what is earthquake, and which are the major landforms, and how these landforms occur due to the work of river, work of sea wave, and work of ice, and work of wind. I hope you are all clear with this chapter. It's very simple chapter. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. Thank you.